What's up everyone, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and it's time for another episode of 7 on Sunday. Today I have an episode that I'm really excited about and very proud of because I spent several months actually kind of finessing the details, making sure that I had my list in proper working order. I had to set aside a lot of time to actually experience these records and make sure that everything was the way that I wanted it to be. Today I'm going to be revealing my top 7 favorite concept albums of all time. For anyone watching that might not entirely understand what a concept album is, it usually refers to a body of work, an album of course, that is meant to represent something as a whole. It's better experienced in the context of the record. It doesn't mean that you can't pick apart and enjoy and love individual tracks. It's just that there's normally a collective thought that is meant to be stated throughout the entire record. The themes that run throughout these today are ones that have spoken to me, have opened my eyes in various ways, and I also feel that it's important to note that I didn't just rank these purely on my enjoyment, I ranked them also based on what I think of the concept. Is it strong? And I truly feel that some of you will be surprised with the end results in a couple of the placements here. There are some misconceptions surrounding what actually qualifies as a concept album, and there are some that I will give honorable mentions to in the description down below that are either loose concepts or maybe they were just outside of my top 7 but ones that I still thoroughly enjoy. I think that it's important to also give credit to the loose concept albums and the people who make an attempt there, but the 7 that are on my list today are ones that I truly feel fit the concept album bill. With that being said, I'm stoked for you guys to see this episode. If you find yourself enjoying it at any point, then please leave a like on this video. It truly does help support the channel, and consider subscribing for the love of music if you're new.
The sky is falling,
Opening up my list today at number 7, we have the 2002 album Songs for the Deaf by the rock band Queens of the Stone Age. Whether it be a loose concept or not, I do truly believe that Songs for the Deaf is a concept album. Josh Homme is a musical genius, as are most of the musicians that performed on this record, and as a collective, they assembled the best night driving album of all time. Okay, it's a lot more than that to be fair, so don't think that you have to get in your car and drive along the California desert in order to truly connect with this album. The idea behind it is that a group of people, possibly the primary band members at the time, started to drive through the desert from Los Angeles out to Joshua Tree, which is roughly about 120 miles away. Brilliant radio DJ transitions are used to signal a change in location to anyone listening, helping cement the album's concept that is also a concept due to its diversity, according to frontman Josh Homme himself. Diverse is certainly a sentiment that I agree with when it comes to understanding the layered meanings within this record, and it's an unstoppable force once it really gets going. It's something that you want to play again and again. You know that replay button? Do it again! Former bassist and vocalist Nick Oliveri brings a harder edge to tracks such as You Think I Ain't Worth $1 and Gonna Leave You. Homme switches up time signatures on a few cuts to keep the sound engaging and uniquely paced, and of course classic singles Go With The Flow and No One Knows provide a nostalgic kickback that simultaneously feels a bit timeless, with Go With The Flow being one of my top 10 favorite songs of all time. Songs for the Deaf unfolds as a wonderful concept album because it truly does take you on this drive through the desert with them. Not every song is directly connected or correlated, but there is a deeper meaning and an understanding, and it feels like you're along for the ride and discovering these revelations along with the band.
sipping on straight glory, let the vibe slide over me. This beat is a chemical.
The number 6 position goes to the newest record that we're going to see on the list today. It's Trench, the 2018 release by the musical duo 21 Pilots. A great concept album that really gets the job done from start to finish, also makes you kind of feel like you're not always listening to a concept album. Everything here is loosely tied together by the world that Tyler Joseph created, which is of course known as Trench. In Trench, we have 9 bishops that rule, the leader being Nico, who was later revealed to be the same person as Blurryface, the voice of Insecurity featured prominently on their last record of the same name. Vultures, visionary landmarks, and European names even are sprinkled throughout the track list, but I honestly feel that understanding the full story is an imperative to enjoy this album. With the way this album was written, you can skip around from track to track and take a different message to heart depending on how you're choosing to experience Trench. much. I personally do love the descriptive terms that are used to heighten our senses here, but even more impressive is the ability of this record to make it enjoyable for both the casual fan and for somebody who might be a more dedicated fan of the duo. Paul Meany of m.A.A.D co-produced alongside Tyler, and oh man, did they hit a grand slam by continuing to blend genres and showcase the ideal musical styles and tempos for Tyler's prolific thoughts. It's a record that I'm continuing to replay over and over again, and it really is fascinating to me at the musical evolution that they've seen. I feel like they're continuing to peak, and they're just really hitting a stride. I'm so anxious to see what they do next, but for the meantime, I'm gonna continue living in this world from time to time when I can. The number 6 position may have gone to the newest album that we'll see on the list today, but at number 5, we have the oldest album. It's The Wall by Pink Floyd. The Wall is a musical journey that you're probably gonna want to clear your entire schedule for. Make room for this because it relies heavily on receiving your full, undivided attention. It's an 81-minute album, which might seem like a wall in and of itself to some. And I know that my prog fans, the viewers out there, are gonna say, oh, an 81-minute album? Psh, I listen to prog albums that are 4 hours and that's nothing. That's great, good for you, but to my younger audience out there that might not have the attention span, myself included because mine's not the best, I truly assure you it's worth setting aside the time to fall in love with a record like this. The Wall is eerily connected, with callbacks to riffs and drum patterns popping up here and there amongst the 26 tracks that almost hits like a sense of accomplishment, like, oh shit, they played that riff earlier. That's the same phone call sound effect that they broke out earlier in the album. Your attention and patience is rewarded on The Wall, a sprawling release that musically draws from the genres of prog rock that Pink Floyd are of course known for, along with elements of art rock and even pop. Massively popular singles Another Brick in the Wall 2, which features a bit of a disco dip sound, and Comfortably Numb attain catchy status in non-traditional ways, while some of the most important deep cuts, The Thin Ice, Hey You, and Outside the Wall have the important task of hammering home the album's running concept. Regarding the overall concept and setting of this album, we're introduced within the first 2 songs to a character known as Pink, who is dealing with the loss of his father and the traumas of life at school and at home. The quote, bricks in the wall are these incidents that continue to stack up in his life and weigh him down, eventually leading to depression and separation in his adult years, even though he's achieved fame as a musician. Hey You is the seminal moment on The Wall, in my humble opinion. We see Pink becoming distraught to the point of extreme depression, and even though this track hits me like a dose of musical ecstasy, it's most certainly not that when it comes to the theme. Let's face it, you probably don't need me to remind you on how great The Wall is, on why it's one of the greatest albums of all time. There's so many publications and lists that have already put it there, but this is me throwing my hat in the ring. It's also my excuse to finally talk about this album because I've been requested to review it for quite some time, and now, here we go, we slipped it into one of the other videos.
Bragging about the episode we just had. A shot of Hennessy didn't make me feel that bad. I'm usually a true firm believer of bad karma.
Number 4, Good Kid, Mad City by the West Coast rapper Kendrick Lamar. This released in 2012, and I love this record truly to its core because it's something that feels so grim and gritty in many ways. It's not that there's always a horrible depiction of his time growing up, but it is a coming-of-age story that we get from Kendrick on this record, and it's something that I keep coming back to because of its realism. The main topics discussed include lust, peer pressure, family, and changes within one's own self. At the start, we see a younger, slightly more naive and innocent Kendrick that's dipping his toes in the water, yet as the album goes on, we're shown his friends' impact on his decisions, as well as his city of Compton, California, testing his morals, even though he wants to avoid that vicious cycle, it seems. Hearing this album is like sitting down with a friend that's recapping the biggest or craziest events that have happened in their life. While K-Dot certainly flexes his dominance as a rapper on some of the hard-hitting bangers Mad City and Backseat Freestyle, a good majority of it is much more refined, chill, and low-key. The hooks are gentle and easy to appreciate, his delivery is always masterfully timed and toned, and the music blends West Coast hip-hop with R&B as seen on something like the single Poetic Justice featuring Drake. Good Kid, Mad City builds a fence between itself and the other selections on my list due to its realism and its easy to invest in mentality. I think that you're rooting for Kendrick whether he's running from the cops after an attempted home invasion or if he's just having a moment of introspection where he calls his own character into question. Many of you watching this video right now are probably scratching your head a little bit thinking to yourself, isn't American Idiot John's second favorite album of all time? Why is it at number 3 instead of number 2? Well, like I said at the start of this video, I am trying to focus more on the overall concept of this episode, which is greatest concept albums, so even though I do love American Idiot more than my number 2 selection, which will be revealed momentarily, overall, I do feel that in this capacity, I think my number 2 pick is slightly stronger. That doesn't mean that this record isn't smart as hell and stuffed to the brim with political commentary delivered through the guise of a coming-of-age story though, because American Idiot never lets off the gas pedal and is a truly perfect album lyrically and musically. American Idiot does have parallels with the real world. Of course, there are moments of clarity where we see Billy Joe Armstrong reflecting on the death of his father on Wake Me Up When September Ends, but overall, this record tells the story of St. Jimmy, the Jesus of suburbia and his journeys through life, moving away from home, his relationship with a girl known as What's-Her-Name, and eventually caving in to blending back in with normal society. Rock operas rely heavily on your investment in not only the story, but the music. The music was the first thing to strike me as mind-blowing upon my first few listens through the album as a teenager in 2005, but modern day, I'd say that the combination of both of those elements are what keep me coming back. This is an album that I've been head over heels for as long as I can remember. In fact, I've known it more at this point in my life than I've ever been without, so I know that I'll continue to come back to this one. It's considered a classic already, and it definitely deserves that achievement. I think I even surprised myself a bit with my number 2 selection, but coming in next we have 9 Inch Nails with The Downward Spiral. This released in 1994, and I feel that it was one of those life-changing albums that didn't necessarily hit me the first 1, 2, 5, or even 10 listens. It's something that snuck up on me over the years. Overall, we're dealing with a protagonist who is slipping into madness, another personality known as Mr. Self-Destruct. Musically, this album is abrasive, rough, and showcases a mixture of industrial grinds, ambient music, and alternative styles. The most fascinating thing about how much I love this record is the fact that our main character is absolutely detestable in many ways. Trent Reznor portrays a bit of himself and his drug-induced mindset filtered through depression when taking on the topics of drug use, mental illness, anger towards the government, and eventual suicide. The one goal of the voice in his head, Mr. Self-Destruct, is to scrape away his humanity and to get him to the point where he's just robotic without feelings. It gets him to the point where he feels comfortable with taking his own life to end the cycle of misery. Fucked Up is the easiest way to describe this album quickly because it's completely unsettling yet riveting any which way you look at it. It's absolutely ingenious in the way that Reznor uses chaotic instrumentation quite often to show the listener what our protagonist is feeling, whether it be a brief moment of humanity or a total lapse in feeling that spirals into numbness. I've so enjoyed spending time with this record, even though its mentality is out there. You can kind of sympathize with this person, the protagonist here, because it seems like there is some sort of mental illness. There's a lot of misconceptions around some of the songs. In fact, it was banned a lot of places back in the day. So many people thought that Trent was just some sort of Satanist that was full of lust and all of these songs are super sexual. In fact, one of the biggest misconceptions is that Closer is some sort of stripper's anthem and that it's about lust entirely. I would say that this record boils down to obsessions and fixating on one thing. And Trent Reznor here is focusing on the characters, possibly even his own mind-numbing slip into an alternate reality that's not reality at all. In fact, it's a very harmful place.
Don't you breathe on me, undeserving of yourself. 'cause there ain't no way that I'm sorry.
My favorite concept album of all time also happens to be my favorite album of all time. It turns out that I really like rock operas. I've been exposed! My Chemical Romance's 2006 album The Black Parade does top my list. I remember listening to this album for the first time, and it was absolutely a game changer. To oversimplify, The Black Parade circles around the life story of the patient, a character created by bandleader Gerard Way, and a tale that divulges a timeline of events as he slowly dies and leaves his family behind. Our main character wasn't exactly a good person, highlighted almost immediately on the opening cut The End, and also on Dead, where he slips into delirium while looking the prospect of death right in the eyes. House of Wolves and Disenchanted further convey this, although there's slivers of sympathy that are meant to be felt, with Cancer being the ultimate tearjerker that eventually became a song that I related to all too well as my mom battled breast cancer in the early 2010s. Things eventually come to a climax when it seems as though the patient has an epiphany on famous last words. It's an inspirational song that is widely debated on whether or not our anti-hero actually survives or not. The themes and excruciating details make this album haunting, realistic, and unforgettable, with the guitars, drums, and vocals driving stakes into your heart with how absolutely twisted they can get. Gerard Way truly led a ragtag crew known as the Black Parade for this album's cycle, drawing inspiration from 70s artists such as Queen and David Bowie to help his ideas become fully realized. Check out my full track-by-track review of the Black Parade if you'd like more insight into why I love this album so dearly, but for now, I'd suggest taking the time to get to know this one on a deeper level, even if you'd kind of previously dismissed them as just some emo band. This record is exploding with rock gusto and impressive musicianship at every corner, and it's of course something that I feel is deserving of being called one of the greatest albums of all time. Thank you so much everyone for tuning into my favorite concept albums of all time. Let me know what you think of the list in the comments section down below. I've truly been wanting to put this out for a while, so it would mean the world to me if you took the time to possibly share it out, or even just dropping a like or a comment on the video. That helps as well, and if you happen to be new to the channel, then please subscribe for the love of music, especially if you enjoyed what you saw today. We upload this series every single Sunday, and I talk about music on both of my channels every single week. If you would like to help support what I do on Patreon financially, then please click the top link down below or else the annotation in the corner. You can see another episode of SOS right here, or tap here for another recent review on the channel. Socials can be found in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.